I'm Danae Green, and I am joined by my lovely co-host,
Sarah Meehan.
Welcome to Wine About Your Data. And we are excited to be with you all again today. So please grab a glass of whatever you choose to drink. It doesn't have to be wine. And join us for this conversation about data. And for us, it's wine because we love it.
We love wine.
We do. So this is our episode number 4.
Yeah.
So welcome to it. We've done a lot of conversations around why we love data, data-informed organization. And the last episode was around clear metrics, which was the first component of a data-informed organization. And today, what is our topic?
Data access.
Woo-woo. You got to ask the data person what the topic is when it's data, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, how fun is that? So with that being our topic, let's just get right into it. So tell me a little bit more about what it really means to have data access.
So data access is not just having a fancy dashboard.
It's not.
It's not. There's so
not
much
everybody even gets
more.
fancy dashboards.
Not everyone gets fancy dashboards. I love a good fancy dashboard, but
I'm sure.
it's way more than just a dashboard.
Yeah.
We like to use FAIR when we talk about data access. So is it findable? So are you capturing data and then are you storing it? Or are you just collecting it on a piece of paper and then you're leaving it on your desk? Like you're not putting it anywhere. My first internship, oh my God, this came to my mind. My very first internship during undergrad was entering paper surveys into an Excel document.
Oh.
And here I am still doing it.
Here you are doing it.
Getting paid more though.
We're going to also talk to us about your volunteer role.
Yes, I'll talk, that's a little bit. Yeah. It's kind of funny. But when my very first job after grad school, I was a volunteer coordinator for a food bank. And we wanted to track how many volunteers we are having throughout the year, right? How many people come? Very normal thing for a food bank to track. And we had sign-in sheets, but when I started, it wasn't being put anywhere. We didn't have a volunteer system because we didn't have the resources for that at that time. And so I had a fancy Excel spreadsheet. Yep. And before I would end my day, I just sat there and entered if this volunteer showed up or not. And so that way I was able to say, to this day, we had this many volunteers come through our door.
And then that spreadsheet became accessible to other people.
Yeah, it was on a shared drive that everyone had access to. My boss would look at it and like pull the data if she wanted to. Yeah. And the fundraiser would also look at it and compare, are my donors coming in?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What are they actually doing? Are they donating and volunteering?
Right.
And all that good stuff.
But so findable is the first one.
Okay.
The next one is accessible. So that kind of gets to like, can everyone in the organization access it?
Yeah.
So like it's not on your own personal drive, desktop.
I don't hold the keys to that data.
Right. I can just like, I know the folder. I can find it.
I think that's the one when I worked in the industry that I knew who had it.
Yeah.
Not everybody would know, but I had been working there for a long time. And actually my parents worked there. And so like there was a lot of like historical relationships.
Knowledge too.
And knowledge. And so I used that knowledge. And it's like, oh, I could just go down to whoever's office and say, I know you've got this somewhere. Right. Can you pull this information for me? But that's not really accessible
or
globally.
Sustainable.
No.
At all. Because if that person leaves, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Yeah. How do you pass all that on?
Yeah.
And as I hired more people in marketing communications, as that department and some of that grew, specifically when we are looking more at enrollment numbers, not just like fundraising marketing, but like also just when you think about how you reach the clients and the people you want to impact and serve, you know, we were using that data, that enrollment data to really drive programming and decisions. And so luckily for me in the role that I had, I knew the right people.
Yeah.
But it didn't always work out that way when I started growing my team.
Yeah.
And they needed to have it more accessible. Yeah. They wanted that fancy dashboard.
I get it.
Someday.
Right? But there's so many other steps you need to do, I think, before you get to a dashboard. But anyways.
What else do we have? Because you said it was FAIR. So findable.
We just did A.
Yep.
Okay. Make sure we know how to spell FAIR.
We've only had a couple glasses of wine, everybody.
Just
promise.
Interpretable. So if you're looking at a data point, does your staff understand it?
Okay.
Like, so I'm trying to think of a data point that would be confusing. I don't know, I'll stick with the number of people served.
Yeah.
But is that like number of people served? Are they duplicate? Are they unique? Is it just from one program or is it the entire organization? So just making sure that all your staff understand the meaning, the methodology, where does that data come from when they're looking at it, so that they can know how then to use it. And so like you might need like some data definitions, like a guide or like a manual, but to kind of help explain what you're looking at. So then there's no like misinterpret something and you can
so when you really go out to like publicly share or communicate what that is, you really know what you're saying.
Right.
A lot of times it was for us, I think, number of kids served, or around like new students or different things like that. It was always tricky because depending on when they would come in, when they would leave, how long they had been in the service or program, like those numbers could be vastly different. Based on how you interpret the data and what you're polling and how you're communicating that. Because, most of our kids would stay 6 to 9 months.
Right.
And so they could land in 2 years easily, but they weren't a new student enrolled.
So that's like a nuance, like a data that you have to like explain that. It needs to be written out somewhere so that people understand that.
Okay. All right. So the last one is
reusable.
Reusable.
So you can use the data in different ways to tell this story. So, and you can like replicate it, right? So like you can like reuse that data over and over. And so each year when you're telling the story and you got new updated data, the story can still be used. You can still use that data to tell your story.
So you're not changing everything.
You're not changing anything else up.
You're just continuing to build and explain and share.
Don't reinvent the wheel each year with this new data point. Just you can keep collecting it and reusing it each year.
Well, and then it goes into like trends and you can really build
and
that.
Obviously, like you might have to make some adjustments. But just make that That goes back to then interpretable. Like if something happened, you have to change your collection methods.
AKA COVID.
Make that
we had to do things different based on those
do something different.
Okay. Totally. So that's fair.
That's fair.
Findable, accessible, interpretable, and reusable. That's how we classify
There's so many like tools and resources out there to make data accessible. Like there's different systems. And you don't need to buy like a fancy database.
It'd be, if you can, and that's where you're at organizationally, and, it's time for that. There's lots of different ways to evaluate that. But obviously, like back in the day when you were doing your volunteer work, you just created a spreadsheet. And it was still accessible.
It's still accessible.
It wasn't under your name and on your desktop. It was for everyone. So, okay, well, I do know that we have a transforming group example.
Transformers.
So, and they were yours.
Yes.
You actually
I love them.
Okay, so tell us about Lutheran Services.
They had me go, it says some Dakota. I can never remember which Dakota they said me to.
We're so sorry if you all are tuning in.
It was so much fun. I believe it was North Dakota.
Okay.
That's probably wrong. But
so what do they do?
They have a Rural Aging Action Network leaders. So they call them RAN leaders. But they have these grantees in 5 different states that are helping to identify gaps, social determinants, health gaps for older adults in rural counties, rural states. And so serving them like food security, health, transportation, all that type of stuff. And Lutheran Services identified their research questions and they identified clear metrics. So they already had these things set in place. And so then they started needing to collect the data. And so they had these 5 grantees in 5 different states. They were collecting this data, but then it was never rolled up. And so we had to work with them to identify a way to making their data accessible. And so that did turn into a dashboard. But still, it was taking data that was disconnected. It was all being reported. But they didn't have a way to like interpret, understand it, and have conversations and to inform their practices and improve their work. And so
you took all that data from each location and made it clean, simplified it, made it to where they would all know how to report it and record it, and then you made it all accessible.
And now we lead data conversations. And so we have this dashboard.
Know this.
So we create sometimes we just don't create a dashboard and we're like, okay, good luck. We like guide them on like, okay, how are we going to have a conversation about this? And so we've built that muscle, kind of the data literacy which is the next episode. I know, and so we help them have those data conversations and identify next steps and what does this mean for our work.
That's fantastic.
I know. I love it.
And I just will still never forget all of your lovely stories when you went out there. Out in the country.
In the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere.
It was fun.
But it was beautiful.
It was beautiful. Prairie dogs.
Yes, it was prairie dogs.
Prairie dogs. Mountains. Buffalo.
Yeah. What an experience.
What an experience.
Transformers are always on the move, so you should check us out online. And you never know where you're going to find Sarah or me or Rose or whoever else on the team. We're always kind of out and about. With that being said, let's get ready for our wine recap. It's that time.
It's that time.
So what are we recapping here? It's all about data accessibility. Yeah. It's fair.
Fair. Should we do this together?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Findable.
Okay.
Accessible. Interpretable. Reusable.
And we were actually right on.
I know, we did that together.
We did not practice that either. That's what's so best about it. So, and if there's anything that we want you to take away from this, what's the number one reminder here?
So go talk to your team, specifically non-data people.
Yep.
And ask them, do you think our data is fair?
Can you find it?
Can you find it? Do you know what this means?
Yep.
Are you using it? Yeah.
And I would even say, not just your data people, but your leadership people. A lot of times leadership folks have their access to things or can send that email or make the phone call and get the data point really quick because they're in the role that can do that.
Yeah.
And so I think we were kind of also hoping that when you were talking about this, really go out to folks in the field or in other levels of the organization and really ask them, what data are you using and is it fair? Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers to you, Sarah.
Cheers.
Cheers to you all. And thank you for whining about your data.